We are back on Morning Line. This is Professor Peter Haslag. He's from over at Vanderbilt, an assistant professor of finance, who is a keen observer of, some of the migration habits of humans as they move around in the aftermath or during the pandemic, and things have changed to some degree. Talking, and we can take phone calls 737-7587 about just how this impacts, people moving here and moving away, mostly moving here to Middle Tennessee, and where it will end or where it leads us. We've got James who waited through the break. We can take his phone call. James, good morning. Hi, James. Hello, James.
Good morning to you. How are y'all?
Good. What's on your mind, James?
I hope that we stay in the move to trend because we have the flavor. I mean, Memphis has got jazz and blues, and Nashville's got country and soft rock. I hope we stay in that trend. I hope we do nothing to run them away. I mean, I understand we got to follow COVID laws and all that because, man, you got to try and make it safe. But I see lots of families moving here with children. I mean, there's something going on right here. People are coming.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah, no one wants to see that part of it really end one way or the other. I guess he kind of makes me think he's right about the country and what this city is known for. And it's not just country music, it's music in general. What you worry to some degree is maybe Nashville losing some of that identity as you bring so much in, and so much of these historic buildings and restaurants, frankly, and you've seen it, have vanished in recent months. That's what I bounced. I was telling him during the break, I was in New Orleans over the weekend. That's one thing you notice about New Orleans. There's a ton of character there. Now, it can be a little dirty, and it's a rough situation there right now as they continue to, come back from the hurricanes and all the storms they have to deal with. But it's a wonderful city with great people. But it has tons of character, and that's one thing I noticed. I go, gosh, they kept it. Yeah. Nashville, I see it disappearing every day. And if Music City will never go away, but if the character of this city leaves, that's going to be a big blow.
Yeah, I mean, you got to find that right balance.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
And make people appreciate what it has so that they can buy into the story of Nashville, I guess.
I know, and so that's what you worry about is I don't know how you do this. You hear Butch Spirit and say we got to put some limits on some of the craziness that comes. I don't want Nashville to become known as just the place you go to have, your bachelor parties. And they come from all over the country for that. I'm sorry, not interested in that. I know that the merchants might be, but that's actually not a cool thing to be known for, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's got a lot more to offer, and I think, trying to put that on display and perhaps not only have one location to show people, I think.
Yeah, but you got Bourbon Street in New Orleans, of course, and that's a crazy scene. But we've got 2nd and Broad, which is our equivalent. Yeah. And that's still the center and heartbeat of the tourist trade here, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, people are searching part of that out. But again, I think just offering a broader menu is probably the most important thing.
All right. But I guess, how long have you lived here?
I've lived here 5 years.
5 years. So you've kind of seen some. You've been through. So do you get the sense that things are changing now with the pandemic where it might revert back to some degree? Or do you pretty much think that this is permanent? Certainly I think for sure it's permanent, that there's many people who have decided I can't work from home.
Yeah. So let me give you my big picture answer, and then I'll give you the more local.
Is the big picture for Tennessee, or are you looking nationally?
We're looking nationally. Again, we're going to use these municipal debt markets just to ask, how is the market viewing this migration? Okay. And so when we do that, we can separate out areas that saw more inflows after COVID and areas that saw more outflows during COVID. And so what we saw is the areas that saw more outflows, the prices went down. So the cost of borrowing went up. That's indicative of this idea that that it becomes that people forward-looking are thinking this is a permanent issue. And so what we can do is we can look, because bonds have different maturities, so we can look at a bond that won't come due for 30 years and ask, is that effect still there in 30 years? Does the market still price it out that long? And what we see is that the market is, it's just this level shift down in the quality of their debt in some sense. And so in that regards, the market is seeing this as a permanent effect. Will we see this kind of propagate and kind of speed up or ramp up in any way? I don't think so. I think things are kind of leveling off. But what we saw, particularly in the last 2 years, is certainly not going to reverse in any way.
Okay, so tangibly, what kind of, like, if you can translate, what does that mean for the consumer? All right, and so does that mean we are going to see prices continue to escalate? Or again, I guess you said depending on the market, but maybe here, what does it mean for all of us? Big picture.
Yeah, so I think there will still be the same inflow of people into Nashville that we were kind of seeing before the pandemic.
Okay, so that's not going to wane.
Yes. So, it exacerbated during the pandemic, though, and so I'm just saying that we'll kind of go back to what it was in 2018 and 2019.
Okay.
Not to say that that was a low level of growth either.
Yeah.
But it'll taper off a little bit from what we've seen the last 2 years.
So more people will continue to still move here. I guess, there's more people moving here than moving away.
That's correct.
Correct?
Yeah.
I mean, the numbers, I don't know. There was some crazy number. I don't know if you guys look at that. How many people move here literally every day? I mean, it breaks down, but dozens. Every single darn day.
Yeah.
People from all around the country.
Yep.
All right, so if that happens, then for those of us who already live here, it means our property values maybe will continue to go up. But the problem is if you want to stay here and you're like, well, I've got this. If you sell your land, where are you going to go?
Exactly. Yeah. You have that option. But they are, I mean, the way that as you have this increased demand, the way you deal with it is you increase the number of housing units, which is why we see tall and skinnies. That's why we see the condos going up. And they're serving different types of people, but in general, you have to have the supply to decrease prices in general.
Right. So building
or to get a hang on the prices, right?
And that's for buying houses. Now, you were saying that you lived in St. Louis for a while.
Yeah,
you
that's
think
right.
of comparable sized cities, perhaps, and I think in our area, all right, maybe you can talk a little bit about, St. Louis, because we also have Indianapolis, you have Raleigh-Durham, maybe, and yet Nashville, you found, at least, is considerably more expensive than St. Louis, which is actually a little bit larger city than us. I think a very nice city.
Yeah.
But what's the story there?
Yeah. I think what it has to do is perhaps how dense it is in Nashville. So St. Louis is, in terms of a county, so you've got more space and land to.
But were you shocked at the cost of?
I was absolutely. So we moved 5 years ago. We were living right by WashU in a nice neighborhood, and St. Louis had an apartment and had more space than we needed, and we moved over to Nashville thinking we could get something perhaps a little comparable, and knew it might be a little more expensive, but it was a little bit of sticker shock coming from there.
Yeah, and especially when you're thinking, well, Nashville's comparable size city. Yeah. It's not like you're moving to downtown Chicago or something like that. Have you ever been to Louisville?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, because I remember going there. Louisville, which is, again, it's nice. It just seems older. It's like, I think this place could have been Nashville, except it doesn't have the Music City hook, which is huge. But it just seems caught in time.
Yeah.
It's like, Louisville's like what Nashville was 25, 30 years ago, and yet it just stagnated. And
I mean, I don't know what that difference is, but I think just having people excitement and growth, you just need one Kickstarter to change things dramatically, I think.
Okay,
and it just propagates.
And it just builds on itself. But I just have not seen it slow down whatsoever at this point. I mean, just as far as traffic, just wanted to hit on that again.
Yeah.
With the migration patterns, all these people coming. You heard, I think, Ann talk a bit about that.
Yeah.
Just as you see it across the country, the concept is you get more people. Do you guys ever look at, cities and areas that have mass transit as opposed to those that don't? Or
that's not part of my research.
Okay.
But there certainly are research papers asking to what extent can mass transit kind of be a release valve. Is that kind of where you're?
Yeah, because I'm just wondering, at what point do folks that move to a place decide that the traffic is so bad it's not worth the other things that I think I wanted to move here for?
Yeah.
And I think about a place like Mount Juliet in Wilson County. I lived there at one point. I've moved a little farther out now. Mount Juliet's a great place. It's got all these great resources, good people, but the traffic is absolutely horrendous. And to me, and I've talked to some people who live there, it's getting to the point for some of them where they're saying, you know what, we love living here, but the traffic now is to the point where every day it is such a headache, it's outweighing the benefits of being here. And the traffic alone.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's, I think, where it comes back to this idea of foresight and how you grow responsibly. And there's risks with kind of doing that urban planning. That's not at all my expertise, but I think, you see people, and if you don't do it well, then it imposes a cost on people, and then that's going to reduce the demand eventually. And so, you have to find that right balance.
Will city planners, I mean, they must look, because you're forward thinking. If you're looking at what you do, the migrations and what's happening, the data's out there. I mean,
yeah, there was this debate, though, for a while, particularly, I would say, in the middle of last year, as to what extent is this permanent or is this going to revert back? And so there was a lot of uncertainty, and it's easier said 6 months from now.
I know, right.
And so, but yeah, so we looked at those debt markets and we're like, at least the market is thinking that this is some permanent component to it. And so, you know, then you can start to maybe plan with a little more foresight. But
where are you going to move next?
I'm hoping to stay in my house.
Oh, okay. I was going to say. All right. I was going to move.
I'll take the traffic every now and then. I've got some flexibility when I can work too, so I can try to avoid it.
And that's something that's come out of the pandemic. People have more flexibility, more options. Listen, we'll take a break. Be back with our final segment, maybe a few more calls with our guest right after this. Stay with us.